Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Southwest Louisiana, Northwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter going to those magical boxes known as radios, a.k.a. the Howard Reynolds machines. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great program for you today. A lot to talk about. And of course, I want to hear from you. Number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. But before any further ado, we throw it to the magicians, to the geniuses in El Estudio on Cataline. Good morning, my brothers. How you doing?
Have you seen any of those guys, Jack?
I think they left on the bus.
Probably so. Jesus just went to Chicago. Good morning. It is Monday morning at the radio, just after 6 o'clock on the 9th of December. And I spent the weekend arguing with MAGAs on Facebook.
Oh, God.
Oh, George.
Don't do that.
Oh, George.
Some of them were reasonable, okay? Some of them were reasonable. Then the last one, I think he was about 12 or so. Just assaulting, oh, you're so stupid and this, that, and the other. Generally, I found that they were fairly reasonable if you were reasonable with them. They just have a different theology than I do, and that's okay. They can have that. But, you know, when it comes down to it, common courtesy, please.
That's all we ask.
I show you courtesy, you show me courtesy.
Amen.
We just have opposing views, and it's okay for them to have opposing views. That's fine. I don't care. But when you go into the personal attacks, that's just the MAGA way. You know, I'll shout you down so I win. Like, come on, people. Really? Anyway, that's how it went this weekend, and spent the weekend cloistered with my dog and the cat. And it was raining, and we just decided to stay in most of the day, both 2 days, actually. So we stayed in the house, and I edited a bunch of shows for this coming week. Well, not this coming week, but week of Christmas. The studio is not going to be open. We're still going to be on the air, but there won't be any humans here. So, folks, don't call.
I think I'm going to have to prepare quite a few shows for you. I think the way it looks like I'll get to prepare 7 shows for you. Ouch!
Well, I wouldn't prepare a Christmas show. I just do Christmas music if I were you.
Okay, that's true. I agree with that.
And New Year's Day, well, do New Year's Day music. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, that'll reduce the workload. I concur.
Well, you got all these shows from the past. You can't go, okay, and now we play this show from here. But then again, actually,
you know what? So funny. I have interviews that I have done that because our listeners here take precedence. I'm prepared to play the interviews and never get a chance to play them for some real good, solid. I play them all at 3 o'clock show, but a lot of them I want to play it here. But hey, well, you know, you come first.
Well, move it right up to 6 o'clock in the morning. And then Tag is waiting for us, and he's the first one to call in. He must have something very pressing to talk about. So Jack has even more pressing stuff. He's got a quarter page of wisdom, which we need to hear.
Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, my dear brother. Jack, talk to me.
Right. I'm going to start something new here called Dealing with Fascism. Little tips to get you through. Okay, Dealing with Fascism 101. The first thing you can do is put in a vegetable garden. Supplement your grocery budget with fresh homegrown veggies. Learn how to compost and make fertile soil that not only grows the plant but supplies enough nutrients to grow the microlife that interacts with the plant's rhizosphere to feed the plant the natural way. Not no Miracle Grow garden. But Miracle Grow gardens are okay, but they just don't build the plant's rhizosphere like a natural garden will. And you'll be surprised at the results you get if you can follow the composting techniques. And it will, like I said, supplement your grocery income if things get tough. It might even work out where you need that garden. You depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be the one of the first steps I would take for dealing with troubled times ahead, possibly.
Well, I think they were probably going to be eating a lot of tomatoes. I retired. Oh, tomatoes for lunch again? Oh, okay.
Well, let me see.
Food.
Have you been growing anything, Jack?
No, I don't have the a space right now to do that.
Oh,
Anything
okay.
you can eat. I don't know. You may be able to eat that.
No comments. No comments. Anyway, before we go and with further ado, you got a message for one of our great listeners. Melissa says, tell him don't bother with them. They got what they want. They wanted what they got. They
Melissa,
got nothing but salt in their bodies.
It's a sport. It's a new sport.
Yeah, well, she's there to protect you, brother. She said, hey, don't get yourself psychologically involved. But you know what? Tag has been waiting on the line. So let's go ahead and give Tag the honor. I mean, I have a lot to talk about to open the show. But if Tag calls as soon as we start, let's let Tag have the air.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, Tag. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Good. And listening to your opening, I just wanted to say happy holidays to everybody. Considering you guys we're going to be gone. Everybody's going to be gone for the holidays, I guess. but I say that because there's so many holidays to cover this time of year.
I know.
It's nothing against Christmas, but there's a lot of holidays to cover. I just want to speak to Jack's composting thing a minute.
Uh-huh.
We found we could take our kitchen scraps, the seeds from all the stuff that we eat, and we put it in the compost. And then when spring hits or when it warms up a little bit, all that stuff grows, and you can have a garden for free. So it's a great thing.
Oh, you mean like if you have your melons and your cucumbers and all of that, just throwing it in compost, you get a whole bunch of different vegetables growing? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Squash and your peppers and tomatoes, especially to make Howard happy. Yeah. You could take old tomatoes that you didn't eat, put them out there. Next thing you know, you got tomatoes coming out your ears.
Wow. I mean, so you just throw them around the yard and you get they're all mixed in together, different vegetables.
Yeah. You just put them in your garden space where you want to make a little compost. And, especially the one great thing is your coffee grinds.
Uh-huh.
And then the worms come in, and boy, I'll tell you what, you can have some really fertile soil right away. It makes a huge difference. So this time of year, you need to think about those things. So really important. I appreciate Jack bringing that up this morning.
Yeah, well,
we learned that in Houston. We learned that in Houston because you can grow down there year round just about. So it's we always had stuff coming up out of our compost. That was pretty cool. But one thing I want to get to here real quick, Egberto, is you talk so much about healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to throw a word about
that. That is one of the most important things, I think, for not just me and family, but the entire darn country. People are suffering in silence. But go ahead, brother.
Well, when we look at what 2025 is saying, Project 2025, which now looks like it's, a lot closer on the horizon here. They want to cut so much government funding. Well, it's pretty apparent to me that they're going to go after the VA healthcare, and they've been trying to do this for a while to put the veterans back into the regular healthcare system. So pretty soon, a lot of these veterans are going to be forced into Medicare Advantage. Oh, happy days!
That's the whole goal.
Yeah, we don't have enough hospitals and doctors and nurses and stuff right now to care for the people who are already in the system. what's going to happen when they start closing down the VA healthcare system and all those people come in? I mean, it's going to be a traffic jam, I think, with the healthcare.
No, it's not only that. Yeah, I appreciate that, Tag, but it's not only that. The VA the VA is like the post office, right? Even though the VA is actually a government institution, the post office is an appendage of a government institution. The post office is an independent organization funded by, it funds itself pretty much. But it's a constitutional organization. And the thing about it is, people like to give the post office a hard time, just like they give the VA a hard time. I want to tell Americans that here is a reality. The VA and the post office gets a hard time because it's a part of the government, run by the government or a government entity that has been extraordinarily successful. Let me explain. You cannot mail a letter by FedEx, UPS, DHL, or any of the big guys for under $1 to any place in the United States, meaning Hawaii or Alaska inclusive. You couldn't do it with your private system. But because of the way the post office is set up, you can do it. The VA is the same. The VA, once you get across the shortages of funding at the VA, once you get into the VA, and I have many relatives in the service, the VA is an excellent institution with excellent doctors who have gone through the ringer, and it works. It's not a whole bunch of folks trying to make a profit. It's folks who believe in healing people. But again, the reason the private sector or some folks in the capitalist sector, I don't want to say the private sector, many in the capitalist sector would come against the VA and the post office is because those show the success of nonprofits doing what's good. Anything else, Tag?
Well, I just think it's a shame that there are a sector of people out there that want to shut down these government entities when they have been so successful and provide so much service to Americans. And it's what we're looking at in the near future, and people better get ready for it to happen.
No, Tag. I don't want you to say that, my brother. I don't want you to say that. The only reason I'm doing this kind of work, what I call activist journalism, is because an informed people, in my humble opinion, an informed people will prevent those. In other words, Project 2025, as you said, and you're absolutely right, is easier to occur now that we have the thug in chief in the White House. But it's not inevitable. It's not inevitable. The opposition is there to make sure it doesn't happen, and you have to be a part of that as well.
Well, I understand that, but I think that with everybody that supports 47 here, that it's going to be tough row to hoe here. So
your brother, you're right. I am in a full agreement, but I want others to remember one other thing. Donald Trump, with this win, still did not crack 50% of the American population. So more than 50. Go ahead.
No, I agree 100%. He didn't get more than 50%, but there was enough people that got together and voted for him. That just shows where America can be duped, I think. So,
well, yeah, but I also want us to, in my opinion, and I'd like others can comment on this, but I looked at the numbers. I looked at the people who won in every state, and I can tell you that if you look at the numbers, you look at those who won in every state. The anomaly in this election is that even with the 7 million less votes that Kamala Harris got, had we not had sexism and racism, Donald Trump would not have won. And I want us to come to grips with that we allowed our sexism and racism to go against what we know is right because of those prejudices. I want us to acknowledge that, because until we acknowledge that, we won't be able to move forward as a country. And we are going to, in fact, some of the stuff that I'm going to read today will show some of the pains we're going to pay for because too many of us just couldn't let go of those isms. Finish up for me, Tag, so I can start the program.
All I can say, Egberto, is let's get your show on the road, baby.
Thank you, my brother. And thank you for calling. And thank you for being the first caller, sir. Let's get busy.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
You too, brother. All right. Look, folks, today's topic show is called Mainstream Media Created MAGA. I said create MAGA. I made it present tense. I probably should have made it past tense. And top Democrats warn Trump to steal from federal programs. Yep. That is the idea. That is what you voted for. That is what progressive activists will try to mitigate, to correct for the grave mistake that this country made. One of the biggest searches on on Google after the election was how to change your vote. Amazing, isn't it? Big question on Google, how to change your vote. Because after people made that gut decision, and for many, that sexist decision, and for others, that racist decision, even as they knew better, they sat and asked themselves, oh my God, what did I do? And Ramaswamy and and Musk, crypto kings, they are actually going to show you if progressive activists aren't successful in slowing things down to ensure that America is saved. And this isn't hyperbole what I'm talking about. But anyhow, it has already started. The media has already started its appeasement. You know, I wrote this piece yesterday. I was kind of, you know, on Sunday mornings I get up and I have to be in my studio at 8 sharp, because that is the time CNN starts with its first Sunday news show. Well, the first real Sunday news show. Then it goes to NBC and CBS, as well as Fox and the others. So I have all these screens up and I'm watching all these things. And today I'm trying to see, or yesterday on Sunday, I'm trying to see what's coming. How are these guys going to go ahead and talk the narrative? And I'm thinking, is it going to be appeasement like Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski did with Trump, and now they're trying to, justify it? Likewise, the New York Times, likewise, the LA Times, likewise, the Washington Post. Is it going to be appeasement like all the news medias seem to have been doing? The answer is yes. So look, I've been complaining about the mainstream media. This is the article that I wrote yesterday for my Substack and all the places. And it says as follows: I've been complaining about the mainstream media and its willful inability to challenge our oligarchy and degenerates like Donald Trump. I watched as Morning Joe's Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough parachuted into Mar-a-Lago to kiss the Trump's ring. And after the progressive dust-up, pretty much gave the excuse that, hey, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others are doing the same. So brother Joe Scarborough went on TV, and I like Joe. I love Mika. But he went on TV and said, look, others are doing it too, so why not do it? Yeah, but what you did was appeasing the criminal. You appeased the criminal. You gave the criminal stand-in. So really, Joe, that's what you thought you needed to do? With several papers like the Washington Post and LA Times changing their editorials to satisfy Trump, I'm not sure that puts Morning Joe in good company. If that was not bad enough, Morning Joe's producer in real time scolded ultra-conservative David Frum for criticizing the drunk and woman abuser Pete Hegseth. You know, the guy that's going to be defense secretary? And notice I said the guy that is going to be defense secretary. You know, Joni Ernst, after giving the impression like she has no intention of voting for Hegseth, said, "Oh, I'm going to meet with him again." Well, you know what they did to Joni Ernst in Iowa? They put up a whole bunch of ads that said she's part of the establishment. She's part of the deep state. So they're scaring her into voting for Pete Hegseth. Is it going to work? We'll see. But I have a feeling it's going to work. What did he say? What did ultra-conservative David Frum say on a purported to be relatively liberal station, MSNBC, that got the MSNBC producers to give him a hard time, to criticize him in real time? Hey, you better watch what you're saying, Frum. All he said was the truth. He said about Hegseth, if you are too drunk for Fox News, you're very, very drunk indeed. After that commercial break, Mika also issued an apology calling the true statement flippant. She said what he said after Frum left the studio and after the break, she called it flippant. He told a truth and she called it flippant. Frum criticized the Morning Joe fiasco in an article he wrote for The Atlantic titled "The Sound of Fear on Air." In other words, the takeover of the media by the oligarchy is complete. The sound of fear on air. It's like we are back in the Soviet Union, where Pravda was the national paper and could only say the things that the people in power would have them say. Remember Pravda? The article is more than a decade late, as the damage done by mainstream media fear began from the time it became a profit center, more so than the unambiguous truth teller. As I do every Sunday morning, I set up my computer screens to watch all the Sunday morning shows from the major news networks. I grabbed a few clips, but as I clipped more and more video clips, I got more and more upset. Why? The questioning of the president and his sycophants was nothing more than the platforming and the normalization of an alternate universe. No real pushback on the stream of lies, misinformation, and misrepresentations was addressed in any substantive fashion. One irked me specifically when Donald Trump said to Kirsten Welker that his economy was greatest and that the inflation was low for Biden's first year and a half because of said economy. Because of Trump economy, he claims Biden's inflation in the first year and a half was low. That's BS, of course. Welker did not use the opportunity to tell Americans the truth. And the truth is so simple. And if she told the truth and the right wing got mad about it, that would even further enhance the truth, because we could have come back and said, here are the numbers. You're fighting about it, right wing. You're fighting about it, MAGA, but here are the numbers. And let me tell you what she should have said. The fact is that Trump's economy, as a continuation of the Obama economy before COVID-19, was no better than the Obama's economy, because he passed no growth policies other than a tax cut that exploded the debt more than any president in American history. Again, Trump, we thought Reagan was bad on a proportionate basis, but Trump exploded the budget more so than any other American president in history. Inflation had not started going up with his mismanagement of the economy because COVID-19 killed demand. If you don't have demand, you can't have inflation. It kept inflation at bay. Again, if you have a pandemic, you don't have demand. If you don't have demand, you don't have a problem with people buying, and as such, prices either fall or stay the same. It's a mathematical truity. It's a mathematical fact. It's an economic fact. As soon as we emerged from COVID-19, his inflationary policies took hold, applying tariffs not to protect American industry, but to tax Americans to help pay for his tax cut with higher prices. Same thing that he's trying to do right now. I paused from my article. The tariff that he's talking about coincides with the inflation, with the tax cuts that he wants to give to rich people, coincides with also what Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk wants to do with respect to their efficiency program, right? Because their efficiency program actually leaves everything untouched. Not touched, I mean. They said even Social Security is on the cutting block. Medicare is on the cutting block. So all of you folks who believed him, you believe the liar. You know he lies. We have proven he lies. You have seen with your own eyes that he lies. But you allowed your isms to vote against the one whose isms you didn't like. And in the process, your Social Security, your Medicare, your disability, they are all in danger in order to give people that have made a windfall over the years. All these billionaires made that windfall on your back. They used you. While productivity, Americans are great workers. Americans are the best. When people tell you we work, brothers and sisters, we work. You go to any other country in the world and you don't see people work as much. They have more vacation time. They have more grievance time. They have more time for lane load. They have all this time in the world. They have siestas. They have all. Americans are chucking it, working hard. And at the same time, the billionaires are telling you you're not working enough because you don't know how bad it is that they're using you. You don't realize that you're fighting to get to work. You're not having mass transit. You having to go into the traffic. You having to do all these things. And then they tell you you're not working hard enough, or you're a slough-off, or too many of you are slough-offs. I don't know too many slough-offs in this country. They highlight the slough-offs to get you pissed off because you are working so hard, and the one or two slough-offs that they make an example out of, you then create a hate for what they are saying there. Brothers, we're being hoodwinked. So we are the hardest workers in the world. And they still want you to work more. Do you know that our productivity went through the roof and we got very little of that? All that money went to the oligarchs, to those folks who have billions. A few callers, specifically Brian, he gets upset when I say the billionaires make the money on your back. That is not conjecture. That is not, I think the billionaires make money on your backs. That is a statement of fact. The abuse of the worker is what have made the billionaire class. That's a statement of fact. Provably, analytically, computationally, provably. This does not remove the reality that our inflation was caused primarily by greed, given the lack of shortages in most areas. In other words, even as Trump's tariffs were inflationary, and we have to be honest, Biden didn't remove most of them, or if any. That wasn't what caused that 9% inflation. That was corporate greed. Supply chain was a minor issue that was exploded. Price of oil and the war in Ukraine and Russia was not a real incident because there was never ever an oil shortage. If you recall, even as the war went on, Saudi Arabia and Texas corporations colluded to cut 2 million barrels of oil off of the market to keep prices high and raise prices. That wasn't your government doing it. That wasn't Biden doing it. That was your plutocrats. That was your oligarchs. The people that continue to play with your minds. The people that continue to completely indoctrinate too many of us. Because Trump, the oligarchy and their sycophants' false narratives are never corrected on topic. I'm talking about the news media now. I'm back to my article. Because Trump, the oligarchy and their sycophants' false narratives are never corrected on topic after topic. Otherwise, good people can be MAGAnized. I just created that word, folks. Are you MAGAnized? Are you MAGAnized? Well, the media have allowed their airwaves to be used by the plutocrats to MAGAnize many of your brothers and sisters. And while more than 50% of the population has not yet fallen for the lies, the distribution of MAGA around the country, along with the progressive apathy, gives the Trumpists a winning hand, which is what occurred. After listening to the news this morning, every MAGA listener could rest assured that Donald Trump is a great president that accomplished much in the past, that Joe Biden screwed it all up, and that his return will bring better days. That's what I heard on the news on Sundays. Any MAGA person listening, that's what they've heard, because no correction was made when Donald Trump said I had the best economy. No correction was made when Donald Trump lied through his teeth. And Merkel said nothing. And all these other news people said nothing. The average listener would believe that while they may not have voted for Trump, he will be okay because he sounded sensible. They made him sound sensible. They sanitized Donald Trump. They sanitized that guy who holds women by their crutches. They sanitized that person who robbed them with a Trump University. They sanitized that guy who stole from his workers. They sanitized that guy who raped women. They sanitized that guy who didn't pay his taxes and inflated the price of his properties to get a loan and deflated the price of his properties for taxes. They sanitized him. They don't mention any of these things, but any other progressives come on TV. They're ready to challenge them, but they don't challenge the evil ones. Those who follow politics are left pulling hairs as the Trump normalization continues. The media did nothing about telling the truth about Biden's policies. Left to their own devices, they will and have started bringing back manufacturing. That is Biden's policies. These are Biden's policies. If Trump leaves them alone, if Trump does absolutely nothing, manufacturing is back. Economic security is back. Infrastructure building is back, and much more. Of course, most of those successes will be realized during the Trump administration if Republican politicians can get over their propensity to cripple our economy. Let's remember a statement of verifiable fact. The economy always does better under Democratic presidents. Look it up. By over 50%, 2-point-something% average growth for one, 3-point-something% average growth. That's a differential that is huge in GDP. As the media continues its renormalization of Trump and his billionaires, their systemic destruction of our society could go unnoticed. The only avenue to get the attention of enough people who can form the necessary challenge and opposition to catastrophic changes to what this country represents is a decentralized progressive media. I repeat, the mainstream media has failed. The mainstream media is failing. The only avenue left to get the attention of enough people who can form the necessary challenge and opposition to catastrophic changes to what this country represents is a decentralized progressive media. And guess what? It is happening. It requires multi-platform, multimodal, old school and new school journalism. We see truthful work taking space. We see truthful work taking up space in Substack and other newsletters, TikTok, Instagram, Telegram, emails, radio, streaming TV, videos, blog, books, flyers, threads, Blue Sky, and so on. It isn't easy to shut it all down. They may get to shut down TikTok next year, but the others, the new and the old, will resurface. Many of us activist journalists, and I mean, many of us who form part of the independent progressive networks have already had Zooms and meetups about how we're going to do this. The resistance to any bad policy attempts is ready. So as soon as bad policy is executed, we're ready. The one thing we continue to discuss is the lack of funding. Major corporations and the non-profit foundations they bankroll have no desire to fund independent media. Of course, corporate funding is non-existent. This is why every independent media network seeks popular funding and affordable small levels of support from the people who listens and the people who share, etc., etc. Folks, let me tell you, it's on you. As Tom Hartman always say, it's on you now. Because the mainstream media, we have shown, because they are owned by the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the corporatocracy. If you want real news disseminated, we don't cost what they cost, but we get the job done. So when you see KPFT goes out there and say, folks, call 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, to support the station, to support the truth. That's what we're talking about. The mainstream media has failed. All we've got left to save our democracy is the independent media. And with that, let's go to Patrick, line numero uno.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, we talk about the post office a lot, but we don't ever talk about why they want to sabotage it. I don't think we do.
Well, let me see what your thoughts are before I tell you what I've always written about. So go ahead and tell me your thoughts.
Oh, well, it's quite simple. It's where minorities are successful.
Oh, that one never crossed my mind. That one absolutely never crossed my mind.
It's a socialist program, and minorities do well there. They hate that.
Oh, wow. I never looked at it through that angle. I always looked at it through the angle of FedEx. I mean, it's a very lucrative business, and FedEx and UPS would like to own it all. But that part that would be the social aspect of it. Beforehand, welcome Eric Hayes and Danny Bagley. Thank you for being here. But yeah, I never looked at it that side, Patrick. Anything else you want to say, my brother?
Yeah, I've said it before on this program, but I'll say it again. Even before COVID, where I was working before, we lost about 100 hours of work between a week between 2018 and 2019. Mm-hmm. And where I worked had been open for over 30 years, and people that have been there for 30 years said that they'd never seen it like that before. We were subcontracted by TxDOT and did infrastructure work, and the quote-unquote infrastructure president couldn't figure out how to keep the TxDOT funded. So that's coming back. So everybody gets to look forward to that.
You got a lot of money. You got a lot of money coming in from the Biden infrastructure project. So that'll be flushed.
All right. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I hope to see you at 3. All right, let's go to Brother Ray.
Hey, Brother Egberto, you were spitting hot fire this morning. I really was enjoying the preaching, because basically you don't say anything that's, untrue. And You know what's sad about the mainstream media? People like for instance, somebody I look up to or looked up to at one point was Stephen A. Smith. But
Mm-hmm.
Stephen A. Smith identifies more, even though he says he votes Democrat, he identifies as an independent, but he said he identifies with some conservative values, and he regretted at some point even voting for a Democrat because of the woke crap that they put on and all of that. And, you know, he talks like somebody that is basically, you know, going the way of Joe Scarborough, saying, you know, let's give conservatives a chance, you know. But I know, because he's a mainstream sportscaster,
Mm-hmm.
that's where a lot of his bread is buttered. And I just feel like it's disgusting. You know, he had actually Jennifer Lewis was on his show, and she told everybody what she really felt. Now, if I had to share my sentiments on the matter of what's going on, Sister Jennifer Lewis, America's auntie, she said it. She hit all the nails on the head.
You know,
that's my sentiment is.
And let me tell you about Smith. I sent him a tweet the other day because what he said was simply ridiculous. This woke thing, let me tell you, anytime I hear somebody said it's something, they pushing this woke thing, I see a feeble mind, because it's amazing how they have allowed woke to seep into the mind as something negative. It's the same thing they did with the word liberal. They turn liberal into something negative when it is something positive. They try to turn woke into something negative when it's something positive. They turn DEI into something negative when it is something positive. That is how they function, and anybody who falls for it is feeble-minded. Because what happens is, you can see the good that comes out of wokeness. Simply means I'm awakened to things and how they affect humanity, how they affect people. I am awoke. There's nothing ever wrong with being awoken. And those that fall into the redefinition of these words, like I said, feeble-minded. And I say that with respect, but feeble-minded. You have to be able to stand up for values. And once you get off of that, feeble-minded. Anything else, Ray?
Yeah, I wanted to share this quote I got from Our Revolution this morning. I think it's very relevant to your working class soliloquy. It's basically saying the phrase unskilled labor is used to distract you from the fact that the work that they are doing is necessary for society. Just because, there's more. Just because some necessary jobs require less training time than others doesn't mean those people deserve to live in poverty.
Man, let me tell you something. Let me make a confession. I am an engineer, okay? And one of the things you learn going to, let's say, an elite public school like the University of Texas is you kind of leave this place with a chip on your shoulder, okay? And I had to learn how to get that chip off the shoulder, right? Because it turns out there are several incidences that happened in my life that showed me that it didn't matter how much smarts you thought you had up in your head and how much smarts you thought somebody else didn't have. Their smarts that they had that wasn't the smarts you had was just as important for life to go on. And that humbled me, because it is something I learned at the time of most need. And I wish all those people that think they're, and this goes for Musk and all these people that think they're wealthy and because they have capital, they have everything. It is something that they ought to learn. That statement that you just made, dear Ray, is it. And I should stop using. In fact, I've used the term unskilled labor. I should take that out of my vocabulary. No labor is unskilled labor. I can guarantee you a lot of what they call unskilled labor are things that I can't do and things you can't do, Ray.
Oh, absolutely. Like trash man,
Yeah.
That Martin Luther King was fighting for when he got assassinated down there in the South. He was fighting for the rights of the municipal workers who didn't get respect because they pick up trash. And that was not something people thought was respectable. It's unskilled labor, but it's very.
You did it. You did it. We said, I said I wouldn't do it. I hope we try not to call that unskilled labor anymore, because you just,
I'm saying, I'm just using the term in the sense that, they're not, I mean, like I say, it's a necessary job.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I read you, brother.
Job.
I read you, brother. I read you. And you know something? Over the years, I've gone out to my garbage man and just look at him and I just say, and I'm serious. So people are like, "Oh, you're so corny." But I've gone out there and say, "Hey, brother, thank you. I see how those guys work and how they do it with a skill. I mean, the skill that they have to be able to do all of that in the amount of time and efficiency. Oh, it's great." So anyway, Ray, I got some more calls. So thank you. I'll talk to you at 3, brother.
Oh, and Patrick, you hit the nail on the head about the mail service, because I see mostly black male postal worker, black and female and male postal workers. So that only makes it. I'll go on that.
Thank you very much, Ray. All right, let's go to Sister Betty. Betty, how you doing, beautiful?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for waking up getting the mean streak going in me this morning. On Trump, his lookalikes, his twins, they're inappropriate. They're like, say, for instance, a stepfather asking their stepdaughter to do something inappropriate when the mom is gone. I circle that for turning me out again 4 years. And on the garden, you can grow asparagus that comes sticking out of the ground straight up alongside your fence. And I still buy stamps. I love this country. And I love my 3 amigos, my 3 morning amigos. Love y'all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And let me just say, we love you very much, Betty. We love you right here. Come on in, Brother Augie.
And I was thinking about the MAGA people. The Democrats should have come up with their own MAGA caps where they say, "Make America great for everyone, not just the 1%ers." So we should have our own MAGA hats.
Yes.
Add the 2 words for everybody, not just the 1%ers. And don't realize that the 1%ers are buying up the media, and they're telling the media what to say.
Yes.
And the Republicans have tried to overtake the government, make coups twice already. People forget about that. They did it in the 1930s. George W.'s grandfather, Prescott Bush, he was the ringleader of a coup attempt in the 1930s. He got Remington Arms Company to supply weapons for the coup. He got military officers to lead them. And the bonus army that went to World War I and wanted their bonus pay, they had a march on Washington. And they thought they could talk these military officers into getting the bonus army to be the soldiers for their coup. But they needed a Marine general to lead it, and the Marine general had morals, and he was patriotic and refused to go along. So the coup never happened, and the newspapers didn't write up about it. Just like today, the media doesn't write up about all the bad stuff the Republicans are doing, particularly the Trump Republicans.
You know,
in the 30s, the media said, nothing to watch here, folks. It was just fake. And when the Senate hearings, they sealed them so nobody could find out the truth about what happened in the 1930s, just like they're lying to us about what has happened during the Trump administration and what the Republicans are doing.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I got some more calls that I got to take, Augie, but you nailed it. I'm watching on Netflix the new, I guess it's a new edition of the series, I believe, called Turning Point. I think it's the Bomb and Cold War. If anybody gets a chance to watch that series on Netflix, I got up this morning, I was watching it while I'm spinning this morning, and it's something that's very important for us to watch because it has, it goes right into today. But anyway, Augie, thank you, my brother. And, we'll talk more this week. All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, brother. Let's go to Brother Bruce. Come on in, Bruce.
Yeah, Egberto, good morning. I want to address the caller that talked about Stephen A. Smith and woke. As a child, and I'm 70 years old, so it was in the 60s, I remember going with my family to get hamburgers at a little tiny shack on Long Point Drive, and they had separate bathrooms, one marked colored. I'll take woke. I remember being at Herman Park playing as a kid and being told, don't go to that water fountain over there. You'll catch diseases. That's the colored water fountain. I'll take woke. I went to school with a kid that had childhood polio. He's one of my best friends. Spent his entire middle school years with a steel bar up his back with a brace under his neck. Had to turn his whole body to address you when he spoke to him. He lost the brace in high school and got better, but he would take woke. I had both mumps, chickenpox, and measles as a kid. If my parents had been offered a vaccine back then, I'm sure they would have preferred woke. Woke is not a bad word. Thank you. Goodbye.
Boy, Bruce, thank you for those statements. And you know what? You keep putting your voice out there, all right? I guess he left already. Anyway, thank you for that, Bruce. That was excellent. And actually, I could make about that? I think I'm going to cut that baby out. That was a great, immediately made poem. Let's go to Brother Brian.
Yeah,
Brother Brian,
morning.
you're on.
Everyone have a good weekend? Yeah, everybody have a good weekend?
Yes, sir. How was yours?
It was good. It was good.
Good. Talk to me.
I do see that. Yeah, I do see that Biden has taken credit for the fall of Syria. That was rather nice of him, even though he had zero to do with it. I see he's out there patting himself on the back, saying, "Yeah, look what I did."
I didn't quite take it that way. I just took it as American policy staying consistent. Ultimately did that. That's what I read into it. But we can read different things into what people say.
Okay, who pulled the majority of troops out of Syria to let it fall by itself? Donald Trump, wasn't it?
I don't know that any of that really. Let me ask you something, Brian. Why don't you just relish in when something successful happens, as opposed to saying it's Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump did that. When we go after Donald Trump, it's because Donald Trump has done something that materially affects Americans. Okay, but when it comes to things that work internationally, we're not going to go after Donald Trump for anything like that. I mean, I think it would do you well, and this is just my humble opinion. I think it'll do you well to just start thinking about things going well or not, as opposed to looking at the head of these things going right or wrong. Because again, you get into, that's how we make mistakes as a country. I think the country made a grave mistake. And I think you are going to, I don't know if you will ever come on the air and admit that, but I think when policies start to come out, if we are not completely successful, I mean, progressive activists, if we're not very successful in blunting some of this stuff, you are going to get hurt. That's all I'm going to tell you. You are going to get hurt. So I think it's time for us to start kind of chilling a bit. Go ahead.
I don't understand. I don't understand your statement. Donald Trump pulls our troops, the majority of them, out of a conflict zone. And yet Biden takes credit for the fall of a foreign government.
Man, you're into that. You're into that cycle again. Why don't you just say, Syria fell. I mean, Bashar al-Assad fell. It's a good thing. Call it a day. Call it a day, Brian.
No, we had nothing to do with that. And yet Biden is taking control and credit for the fall of the nation.
But here's the thing, right? Brian, I'm from Panama. whenever you look at me and tell me that Biden has nothing to do with it, I disagree with, let me explain. I disagree with Biden's policies completely when it comes to how he dealt with Israel and the Middle East, including Syria. Okay? But here's what I'm going to tell you. A lot of what Netanyahu did with Hezbollah and crippling crippling Iran was the mitigating factor that caused the attack on Bashar al-Assad. Okay, so if you go down the list of things that occurred that caused the fall of Assad, Biden could take credit, even though I don't like that kind of a credit, because I thought that the genocide in Israel, the attacks in Beirut on Hezbollah, etc., which is a prime factor in why Iran is weak and couldn't help sustain Assad, was causal. So if you really want us to get technical of who has more of a, who likely made Assad fall, Biden could take credit for that, because he's the one who helped Israel get rid of Hezbollah, who weakened the policies that caused Syria to fall. There's your explanation. But Brian, you can go look it up and then come back tomorrow and talk to me. Thank you, Brian. You have a wonderful rest of your day. All right. Look, folks, we got to get out of here. But beforehand, let's go to the geniuses in the studio.
Well, Brian's perspective is always very interesting. I will say that. Thank you for calling in, Brian. You're always welcome to call back. Jack, what you got?
Well, to me, woke is a condescending put down to the people that are aware of the right's deception.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love the way Bruce did it. And when I'm done with the program, I'm going to cut that baby out and I'm going to put it onto my not my Substack. I'm going to put it onto my Blue Sky. And you're going to be a star, Bruce. Anyway, all our listeners, I love you all our callers. You too, Brian. I always have to say that. You too, Brian. Please remember, all the rest of the program is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I get out of here. We are what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me